It's been almost a month since the FBI executed a search warrant on Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence. In the weeks that followed, the former president has been really ramping up the crazy. He's been using his social media site and any right-wing megaphone that will let him speak to rehash false claims about the 2020 election, express bizarre grievances about wind farms and electric cars, even to indulge fantasies that he will be reinstalled as president. In the middle of all his airing of grievances, one line in particular really jumped out to me as very, very dangerous. It was when he called into a right-wing radio show last week and talked about the January 6th rioters. Have a listen.
I will look very, very favorably about full pardons. If I decide to run and if I win, we can't let that happen. What's happened here, and I mean full pardons with an apology to many, an apology.
You heard that right. He's talking about full pardons for those convicted for crimes on January the 6th. That interview happened on the same day that a judge handed down the longest sentence yet for a rioter on January the 6th. A retired NYPD officer named Thomas Webster was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Webster was seen on video attacking a police officer with a flagpole. So that's the kind of person that Trump might pardon with a full apology? Ah, yes, the law and order president. And talking of January the 6th insurrectionists and rioters, what about this man? His name is Timothy Hale Cuccinelli. And you can tell by these photos he had a knack for sporting a look similar to a certain Nazi dictator. Hale Cuccinelli was convicted of several crimes, including obstruction of an official proceeding for his role on January the 6th. He's set to be sentenced next week. Prosecutors say he entered the Capitol through a window and removed barriers outside the building, making it easier for other rioters to gain entry. His defense, and I kid you not, included claiming he did not know Congress operated out of the Capitol building. He denies any affiliation with the Nazi Party, although those photos and evidence from the court filing against him at least suggest an affinity. While working as a security guard at a naval weapons station in New Jersey, his co-workers told prosecutors that he talked constantly about Jewish people and was heard saying Hitler should have finished the job. On the witness stand, he said his remarks were repugnant and disgusting jokes. Jokes. These are the kind of people who could get pardons after Inauguration Day in 2025. And before you think, maybe Trump didn't mean he's going to pardon the Hitler mustache guy, not him, think again, because this weekend, Trump invited that man's aunt on stage at his Pennsylvania rally to say this.
I'm the founder of the Patriot Freedom Project, a foundation started after the arrest of my nephew, who has been languishing behind the walls of a D.C. jail almost 2 years for his participation in the January 6th rally. He went to the nation's capital to hear his president speak. He dressed in a suit and tie and his favorite hat. Tim wanted to take part in what he thought was going to be a historical event. Instead, he witnessed a horror show.
Her Hitler mustache-sporting nephew, who former colleagues say wanted Hitler to just finish the job, was in D.C. on 1/6 because he wanted to witness history. Okay. These are the kind of people Donald Trump is encouraging, defending, and planning on possibly pardoning if he returns to office. This is the kind of extremism that is now being normalized on the American right. And it's outrageous. Joining me now, Ruth Ben-Ghiat. She's the author of Strongman, From Mussolini to the Present, and publisher of Lucid, a newsletter on threats to democracy. She's also professor of history and Italian studies at NYU. Ruth, thanks so much for coming back on the show. First off, your reaction to Trump inviting the Hitler mustache guy's aunt on stage on Saturday.
This is, well, you know, if we go back to the beginning of Trump's appearance in politics, in January 2016, 62% of his tweets, when he still had a Twitter account, were retweets of neo-Nazi and white supremacist accounts, propaganda. So he very purposefully cultivated the loyalty of people like this guy with the Hitler mustache from the very beginning. And January 6th was like a culmination point of this cultivation of Nazis. So we hear about Charlottesville, but I wanted to mention that he's been purposefully cultivating these people long before Charlottesville.
And what does it say when Donald Trump says he wants to apologize and pardon January 6 rioters? This is not just about rewriting the history of 2020. In a way, it's encouraging these people to be violent again, is it not? It's basically saying to your supporters, if you go and do what you did on 2021 again in 2025, I'll have your back.
Oh, completely. It enshrines the practice of violence as a way of doing politics into the Trump cult and into the party. And this is what authoritarians do. In fact, I wrote an essay about this for Lucid called Pardon Me. And Mussolini, in 1925, right after he declared dictatorship, he issued a blanket pardon of all the thugs and black shirts who had helped him get to power through violence. And then in 1978, the military dictator Pinochet in Chile issued a pardon of all kind of human rights abusers and also those who concealed the abuses. So pardoning thugs does many things for authoritarians like Trump. It sends a message that violence is welcomed, and it also builds loyalty, and it frees up all kinds of criminals and lawless individuals to be of further service to the leader.
So, as ever with Trump, his authoritarianism is a little different to everyone else's. In other countries, the authoritarian takes the security agencies and uses them on his behalf. Here in America, you have Trump now attacking the FBI, which was stacked with people who supported him. In fact, the FBI director was appointed by him. FBI rank and file have always tended to be more conservative, and yet simply because they searched his house, executed a legally obtained search warrant, he's ramping up attacks on the FBI and the DOJ. Have a listen to him speaking this weekend.
The FBI and the Justice Department have become vicious monsters, controlled by radical left scoundrels, lawyers, and the media who tell them what to do.
I mean, put aside for a moment the fact that you can't be a party of law and order while you attack the agencies of law and order. I do wonder, Ruth, do you think this might backfire on him in the sense that he did have a lot of sympathy within law enforcement agencies, security agencies? A lot of questions being asked about the Secret Service's role on January the 6th. A lot of people asking about the military. But I wonder whether the FBI now is going to be like, well, we liked this guy before. I'm talking about the rank and file, but he's just attacking us every day. He's inciting violence against us and our families. Might this backfire on him, I wonder?
Oh, I think so. And also, the way that he's treated state secrets and classified information, that can't go over well with legions of national security officials and their families and even people in the military, anybody who understands how important the role of national agencies for defense and intelligence and security are, would be, appalled at the way that he's just turning on them. And I keep thinking of this quote that Kellyanne Conway said right after Trump got into office in 2017. She said that Trump should be putting his own intelligence and security people into office.
So, Ruth, let me ask you about what's going on in New Mexico. Very interesting development in the case of a January 6 rioter today. A judge in New Mexico has decided to bar Couy Griffin, a county commissioner who founded Cowboys for Trump, from ever holding public office because of his participation in the insurrection attempt. That's under the 14th Amendment, Section 3, which some people wanted to apply to people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ted Cruz. How significant do you think this is that a judge in New Mexico is? Obviously, it's not a senator, it's not Marjorie Taylor Greene, but it's still a big deal.
It's a huge deal. It establishes a precedent that others can follow. And often when you're talking about, what does it take to have a tipping point where people will come out? You know how you saw how in the January 6 hearings, after that very compelling testimony of Republicans like Cassidy Hutchinson, many other Republicans came forth. So I'm hoping that this kind of turns the tide in some way to have more actions of this type.